I remember the first time I saw her. It was in a small cafe nestled in the heart of the city, where the air was thick with the aroma of freshly brewed coffee and the soft hum of jazz filled the background. Her laughter was like music, light and airy, cutting through the typical din of morning chatter. I was immediately captivated. Her name was Sarah, and from that day forward she became the center of my universe. We married 2 years later, a whirlwind romance that felt like a dream. The kind of love that made you believe in fairy tales. We shared everything, dreams, fears, and countless late-night conversations over glasses of wine. I was a writer, and she was an art teacher, her life painted with colors and creativity. Together, we built a life that was vibrant and full of promise. But as time passed, I noticed subtle changes in her. The way she'd smile a little too brightly when she got a text. The late nights she claimed were spent grading papers or preparing for her next class. I brushed it off as paranoia, a writer's tendency to overthink. After all, who would cheat on a perfect life? Then came the painter Lucas. He was a local artist, known for his abstract pieces that hung in galleries around town. The first time I met him was at one of Sarah's art exhibitions. He was charming, with a disarming smile and an air of confidence that made him magnetic. I remember feeling uneasy but pushed it aside, thinking of him merely as a colleague. As weeks turned into months, the little signs of infidelity became more pronounced. Sarah started spending more time at the gallery, often mentioning her collaboration with Lucas. I'd catch her gazing at her phone, a flicker of excitement in her eyes that wasn't directed at me. The laughter that once filled our home began to fade, replaced by an uncomfortable silence that echoed through the hallways. It was a rainy Thursday when I stumbled upon the truth. I returned home early, the sound of raindrops pattering against the window almost soothing. I expected to find Sarah curled up with a book or preparing dinner, but instead I found her phone lying on the kitchen counter, screen illuminated with a message from Lucas. "Can't wait to see you tonight. Just you and me." My heart sank. A cold wave of nausea washed over me as I read the words again and again, each time feeling the betrayal cut deeper. I felt like I was drowning in a sea of confusion and anger. How could she do this to us, to me? The thoughts spiraled in my mind, a cacophony of hurt and disbelief. I confronted her that night, my voice trembling with a mix of hurt and rage. "Sarah, are you having an affair with Lucas?" The look on her face was one I would never forget, a mixture of shock and guilt, followed by a desperate attempt to deny it. But the truth was out and there was no hiding from it. "You don't understand," she pleaded, her voice breaking. "It's complicated. I never meant for it to happen." Complicated, I could hardly breathe. I felt a rush of emotions, betrayal, humiliation, and a blinding anger that ignited a fire within me. I had loved her unconditionally, and this was how she repaid me. My mind raced, filled with thoughts of revenge. I wanted her to feel the pain she had inflicted on me. Lucas wouldn't get away with this. I imagined him, paintbrush in hand, creating masterpieces while my world crumbled. I would make sure he understood the consequences of his actions. I began to plan, a dark determination settling in my chest. After that night, my life became a cocktail of anger and despair. I could hardly focus on my writing. The words that once flowed effortlessly turned into a jumble of frustration, reflecting the chaos in my mind. Sarah tried to reach out, to apologize, but I couldn't bear to look at her. Every time I saw her, all I could think of was Lucas and the betrayal that had shattered our world. I spent nights lying awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment leading up to the discovery. Had I been blind to the signs? Each laugh shared, each intimate moment felt tainted now, like a cruel joke played at my expense. I was consumed by the thought of revenge. I wanted Lucas to regret every stroke of his paintbrush, every moment he shared with my wife. The idea of revenge blossomed in my mind like a dark flower. I started to gather information about Lucas. I learned that he had a gallery opening coming up. In a month, a highly anticipated event that would showcase his latest work. The thought of him standing in the spotlight, basking in admiration, while I was left in the shadows of betrayal made my blood boil. As I began planning, I felt a sense of clarity wash over me. This was my chance to take back control. I would expose their affair in a way that would leave a lasting mark, not just on Lucas, but on Sarah too. I wanted them both to feel the weight of what they had done. It wasn't just about revenge, it was about justice. I had to make them understand the pain they had inflicted on me. I started by observing Lucas. He often painted in a small studio near the river, a place where he found inspiration amidst the quiet beauty of nature. I would sit on a bench across the street, pretending to read while watching him through the window. I noticed how he would lose himself in his art, completely oblivious to the world around him. It was infuriating. How could he be so carefree while I was drowning in sorrow? I began to formulate a plan. I decided that I would create a piece of my own, a piece that would serve as both a distraction and a weapon. I had spent years honing my writing skills, crafting stories that captivated readers. Now, I would craft a narrative that would expose Lucas and Sarah for who they truly were. I reached out to a few local art critics and collectors, planting seeds of intrigue about Lucas's upcoming show. I hinted at the possibility of a scandal, a rumor that could turn the tides against him. The art world thrived on drama, and I knew that if I could create enough buzz, it would reach the right ears. I wanted to ensure that when the night of the gallery opening arrived, Lucas would be faced with more than just admiration. Meanwhile, I kept my distance from Sarah. I could see the guilt etched on her face, but I was no longer interested in her apologies. I felt a sense of power in my silence. I wanted her to wonder what I was planning, to feel the weight of my anger. I would not give her the satisfaction of knowing my thoughts. Instead, I embraced my role as the silent observer, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. As the days turned into weeks, my plan began to take shape. I spent countless hours writing a piece that would serve as a narrative of betrayal, a fictionalized account of a husband discovering his wife's affair with a painter. In my story, the painter was not just a man. He was a symbol of everything that had gone wrong in my life. The words flowed from my pen like a torrent, each sentence laced with the pain and anger I felt. I decided to intertwine my own emotions with the fictional narrative, creating a raw and visceral account of betrayal that would resonate with anyone who had experienced similar heartache. I wanted it to be a reflection of my turmoil, but also a warning, a tale of caution for those who dared to tread the path of infidelity. As the opening night of Lucas's gallery approached, I felt a mixture of excitement and apprehension. The culmination of my plan was near, and I was ready to unveil the truth. I wanted to witness the moment when the facade would crumble, when Lucas would be exposed for the fraud he was. I could almost taste the victory. I had taken control of my narrative, and soon I would reclaim my dignity. As the date of Lucas's gallery opening drew closer, my anticipation morphed into a palpable tension. I could hardly contain myself, each day an exercise in restraint. I spent hours fine-tuning my narrative, ensuring it captured the essence of betrayal and heartbreak. I wanted it to be powerful, a story that would resonate not just with art lovers but with anyone who had ever felt the sting of infidelity. The night of the gallery opening arrived, shrouded in a veil of excitement and expectation. The venue was elegantly lit, adorned with Lucas's artwork that hung like vibrant whispers on the walls. I could see the crowds milling about, their voices blending into a soft hum, punctuated by the occasional burst of laughter. It was a celebration of his success, but I was determined to turn it into a night of reckoning. I donned my best suit, a crisp white shirt that felt stiff against my skin, a stark reminder of the facade I was about to wear. I arrived early, slipping through the crowd unnoticed, my heart racing with each step. I could see Lucas mingling with guests, his charming smile on full display, basking in the adoration of admirers. I felt a surge of anger at the sight of him, the man who had so carelessly invaded my life. As I made my way through the gallery, I spotted Sarah across the room. She was radiant, dressed in a flowing blue dress that accentuated her figure. But her beauty felt like a betrayal in that moment, a reminder of everything I had lost. I watched as she laughed and chatted with a group of art enthusiasts, her laughter ringing hollow in my ears. The sight of her enjoying herself while I planned my revenge ignited a fire within me. I had strategically placed copies of my narrative, a short story titled The Brush of Betrayal, throughout the gallery. Each copy was disguised as a program for the evening, cleverly designed to blend in with the rest of the promotional material. I felt a rush of adrenaline as I imagined guests picking them up, reading the words that would expose Luca's and Sarah's affair. The story was a reflection of my pain, a fictionalized account of a husband discovering his wife's betrayal with a painter. I had crafted it with vivid imagery and emotional depth, detailing the agony of love turned sour and the devastation of trust shattered. It was raw and unfiltered, a mirror to my heartache. I wanted it to resonate, to linger in the minds of those who read it. As the night progressed, I noticed guests gathering around a central piece, a large canvas that Lucas had created specifically for this event. It was an abstract representation of passion and chaos, colors swirling together in a tumultuous dance. I felt a surge of satisfaction as I realized that this was the perfect backdrop for the unveiling of my narrative. When the moment felt right, I approached Lucas, a calculated smile on my face. "Congratulations, Lucas. Your work looks incredible," I said, my voice steady despite the storm brewing inside me. He turned to me, his smile wide and genuine, completely unaware of the storm I was about to unleash. "Thanks, I'm really excited about tonight," he replied, his eyes shining with pride. "You should grab a drink and enjoy the art." I nodded, but I had other plans. I moved through the crowd, watching as people began to leaf through the programs I had placed around the gallery. I could see the moment they started to connect the dots. Whispers began to circulate, eyes widening as they read snippets of my story. The tension in the air shifted, excitement turning into confusion, then shock. As the evening unfolded, I felt a sense of power wash over me. I could see Sarah's face change as she caught wind of the story circulating among the guests. Her laughter faded, replaced by a look of uncertainty. I watched her eyes dart around the room, searching for answers for me. She finally spotted me, her expression morphing from confusion to anger as she approached. "What have you done?" she hissed, her voice low and furious. I could see her trying to maintain her composure, but the cracks were showing. The facade she had worn so easily was crumbling. "Just sharing a story, Sarah. One that I think resonates with tonight's theme," I replied, my tone casual as if we were discussing the weather. "Is this your idea of revenge? This is low even for you," she shot back, her voice rising. I relished the anger in her tone. It was a testament to the power I now held. "Is it low, or is it just the truth? You wanted to play with fire and now you're getting burned," I said, my voice steady. I wanted her to feel the weight of her choices, to understand the consequences of her actions. Before she could respond, Lucas joined us, a frown creasing his brow. "What's going on?" he asked, confusion etched on his face. I glanced at him, feeling a surge of satisfaction. This was the moment I had envisioned. "Just discussing art, Lucas. You know, the kind that reveals the truth beneath the surface," I replied, my gaze unwavering. The crowd began to gather around us, drawn in by the tension. I could see the realization dawning on Lucas's face as he pieced together the fragments of the narrative. The shock in his eyes was almost worth the pain I had endured. As I stood there, facing the consequences of my actions, I felt a mix of triumph and sorrow. I had unleashed the truth, but at what cost? I was left wondering if this was the justice I sought, or merely a step deeper into the chaos of my own heart. The atmosphere in the gallery shifted dramatically as the crowd began to murmur, the air thick with tension. I could feel the weight of their gazes, their curiosity piqued by the unfolding drama. Sarah's expression morphed from anger to desperation as she searched for the right words, but I could see that she was losing her grip. "Please, let's talk about this somewhere else," she urged, her voice strained and pleading. I could sense the panic rising in her, and part of me relished the sight. This was the moment I had envisioned, the unveiling of the truth, and I wasn't about to back down. "Why would we do that? Everyone deserves to hear the truth, especially when it's painted so vividly," I replied, my tone dripping with sarcasm. I gestured toward the crowd, which had gathered closer, their faces a mixture of intrigue and shock. "After all, isn't that what art is about?" Lucas remained silent, his expression shifting from confusion to anger as he pieced together the implications of my words. You think this is some kind of game? He finally snapped, his voice low and menacing. You're ruining my night, and for what? Because you can't handle the truth. I felt a surge of adrenaline at his words. No, Lucas, you're the one who can't handle the truth. You've been living in a fantasy, painting your way through life while my world crumbled. I took a step closer, feeling the energy of the crowd intensify. You think you're an artist. You've painted nothing but lies. The crowd was now fully engaged, whispering among themselves, their eyes flickering between Sarah, Lucas, and me. I could see the discomfort in their expressions, the way they shifted uncomfortably as the drama unfolded. It was intoxicating, and I thrived on it. This was my moment of power, a chance to reclaim my narrative. Enough! Sarah finally shouted, her voice breaking through the tension. You don't get to do this. You don't get to turn this into a spectacle. Her frustration was palpable, but I could also hear a hint of fear. She was losing control, and it felt exhilarating. Maybe I do, I replied, my voice steady. Maybe this is exactly what you both deserve. You've made a mockery of our life together, and now it's time for the world to see the truth. Lucas stepped forward, his eyes narrowing as he glared at me. You think you're some kind of hero in this situation. You're just a man scorned, lashing out because you can't cope with your wife's choices. The accusation stung, but I brushed it off. Hero or villain, it doesn't matter. What matters is that the truth is out there now. I shot back, my voice rising. You can't hide behind your canvases anymore. In that moment, I could see the tide turning. The crowd's murmurs grew louder, the tension palpable. Some guests began to pull out their phones, capturing the scene as if it were a performance piece. I felt a rush of satisfaction. I had orchestrated this moment, and now it was unfolding exactly as I had planned. Sarah's face flushed with anger and embarrassment as she realized how public our confrontation had become. This isn't the way to handle this, she said, her voice trembling. You're only hurting yourself. Am I? I replied, my voice dripping with disdain. Or am I finally standing up for myself? You've made your choices, and now you'll face the consequences. I could see the hurt in her eyes, and for a brief moment I felt a flicker of sympathy, but it was quickly overshadowed by the anger and betrayal that had consumed me. As the crowd continued to watch, I turned my attention back to Lucas. You think you're some kind of genius, don't you? But your art is nothing more than a facade, just like your relationship with Sarah. I'm here to show everyone that the truth doesn't hide behind paint and canvas. Lucas's eyes darkened, and I could see the flicker of rage building within him. You're a coward, hiding behind your words and accusations. You think this will hurt me. You're wrong. You're only making yourself look pathetic. His words struck a nerve, igniting a fire within me. Pathetic, maybe, but I'd rather be pathetic than live a lie. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. You've taken everything from me, and now it's time for you to face the music. The tension in the air was electric, and I could feel the crowd's energy shifting. The whispers grew louder, and I could see the guests exchanging glances. Their expressions a mix of shock and curiosity. I had them wrapped around my finger, and it felt powerful. Just as I was about to say something else, Sarah stepped between us, her eyes pleading. Stop it, this isn't helping anyone. We can talk about this later, just not here. But I was done playing nice. No, Sarah, this is exactly where we need to have this conversation. You wanted to play with fire, and now you're getting burned. You need to understand the depth of your betrayal. The crowd was now fully engaged, captivated by the unfolding drama. I could see the anticipation in their eyes, a mixture of horror and fascination as they witnessed the unraveling of a relationship. This was my chance to expose the truth, to make sure that neither Sarah nor Lucas could ever forget the consequences of their actions. As I stood there, facing the two people who had betrayed me, I felt a sense of liberation. I was no longer the victim. I was the one in control. I had taken back my narrative, and I was ready to see it through to the end. The air was thick with tension. As I continued to face Sarah and Lucas, the crowd buzzing with anticipation, it felt surreal, like I had stepped into a play where I was both the protagonist and the antagonist. I could see the emotions swirling around us, shock, anger, confusion, each guest becoming an unwilling participant in this drama of betrayal. Look at what you've done, I said, my voice steady but filled with emotion. You've turned our lives into a spectacle, and now everyone is watching. You wanted to play with fire, and now you're both getting burned. My gaze shifted from Sarah to Lucas, feeling the weight of my words sink in. Sarah's expression shifted from anger to desperation as she glanced around at the crowd, her eyes pleading for understanding. "You're making a mistake, Jason. This isn't how you fix things," she said, her voice cracking. "We can talk this out. Just please talk it out." I interrupted, incredulous. "You think there's anything left to talk about? You've betrayed me in the worst way possible. You think a conversation can undo that?" Lucas stepped forward, his jaw clenched. "You're being a fool, Jason. You think you can ruin my career with your petty revenge? It's pathetic." His words stung, but I steeled myself against the pain. I knew this was about more than just revenge. It was about reclaiming my dignity. "Pathetic? No, Lucas. What's pathetic is how you've taken advantage of someone else's trust. You've painted your way into my life, and now you'll face the consequences." I leaned in closer, lowering my voice so only he could hear. "I'm not going to let you get away with this." As the crowd continued to murmur, I could see the realization dawning on them. They were witnessing not just a confrontation but a raw display of human emotion. I had turned my pain into a performance, and I could feel the energy shift in my favor. "Let's take this outside," Lucas suggested, trying to regain control of the situation. His eyes blazed with anger, and I could see the challenge in his stance. But I wasn't going to back down. I wanted him to feel the weight of his actions right here, right now. "No, Lucas. This is the perfect stage for your reckoning," I replied, my voice firm. "You wanted to showcase your art, and now you'll see the consequences of your choices. You're not the only one who can create a masterpiece." The tension in the gallery reached a boiling point as the crowd leaned in, eager to witness the unfolding drama. I could see the shock on Sarah's face as she realized that I was not going to let this go. I was finally taking a stand, and it felt exhilarating. "Jason, please," Sarah begged, her voice trembling. "This isn't what I wanted. I never meant to hurt you." "Then why did you?" I shot back, my voice rising. "Why did you betray me with him? You had everything, and you threw it away for a fleeting moment of passion. You don't get to play the victim now." Lucas stepped in, trying to defuse the situation. "This isn't about Sarah and me anymore. It's about you and your inability to accept what's happened. You're making a fool of yourself." I could feel the anger boiling inside me, but I forced myself to maintain control. "No, Lucas, I'm not the fool here. You are, thinking you can waltz into my life and take what's mine without consequences. You've underestimated me, and now you'll regret it." As the crowd continued to watch, I felt a sense of clarity wash over me. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about reclaiming my narrative, about showing them both that they couldn't escape the fallout of their actions. I had crafted a story of betrayal, and now it was time for them to confront it head-on. "Let's take a look at your little masterpiece, shall we?" I said, gesturing toward the large canvas that dominated the gallery. The colors swirled together in a chaotic mix, and I felt a surge of satisfaction at the thought of using it as a backdrop for my final act. "Lucas, your art is a reflection of your soul, chaotic, selfish, and ultimately empty. You've painted a picture of a love that was never yours to take, and now it's time for everyone to see the truth behind it." The crowd seemed to hold its breath, the tension mounting as they awaited my next move. I could feel Sarah's eyes burning into me, a mix of anger and desperation. I was no longer the victim. I was the architect of my own narrative, and I was ready to see it through to the end. Tonight, I'm not just exposing a betrayal. I'm revealing the emptiness behind the facade you've both built. I want everyone to see the truth, to understand that love is not a game, and trust is not easily rebuilt. With that, I stepped back, allowing the crowd to absorb my words. I could see the impact of my actions ripple through the gallery as whispers began to spread, the reality of the situation settling in. Sarah's face was a mixture of shock and anger as she processed the consequences of my revelation. Lucas stood there, his confidence wavering as he realized the gravity of the situation. The crowd was no longer just spectators. They were witnesses to the unraveling of two lives intertwined in betrayal. As the gallery buzzed with conversation, I felt a sense of liberation. I had taken control of my narrative, and now it was time to confront the aftermath of my actions. As the murmurs in the gallery grew louder, I could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on me. I had unleashed a storm, and now it was time to face the consequences. I turned to Sarah, who stood there, her expression a mix of anger and disbelief. The vibrant colors of the gallery seemed to dull in comparison to the chaos of emotions swirling between us. "Jason," she started, her voice trembling, "you don't understand what this will do to us, to our lives." There was a desperation in her tone, but I could also hear the underlying guilt. She knew she had crossed a line, and now the truth was out for everyone to see. "Understand?" "I think I understand perfectly," I replied, my voice steady. "You made your choice, Sarah. You chose him over everything we built together. You chose betrayal." Lucas, still reeling from the confrontation, stepped forward. "This isn't how you handle things, Jason. You're destroying everything," he said, his voice strained. Anger flared in his eyes, but I could see the cracks in his facade. He was no longer the confident artist. He was a man exposed. "Everything," I echoed, my tone laced with sarcasm. "What exactly have you built, Lucas? A life built on lies and deceit. You think you can paint your way into someone's heart and not face the consequences?" I felt a rush of satisfaction as I watched the realization dawn on him. This was not just about art. It was about the lives he had shattered. The crowd began to disperse slightly, some guests whispering among themselves, others stealing glances at Sarah and Lucas. I could feel the energy shifting, the excitement of the drama transforming into something deeper, a collective understanding of the pain that infidelity could bring. "Jason, please," Sarah pleaded again, her voice softer now, almost broken. "I never wanted to hurt you. I was confused and it just happened. It was a mistake." She reached for my arm, but I stepped back, the gesture feeling like a betrayal in itself. "A mistake? Is that what you call it? A mistake doesn't happen in isolation. It happens because you let it. You let him into our lives, into our home. You let him take what was mine." The words felt heavy in the air, each one a reminder of the trust that had been shattered. I could see the tears welling in Sarah's eyes, and for a brief moment I felt a flicker of sympathy. But it was quickly overshadowed by the anger I had nurtured for so long. "You need to understand that this isn't just about you and me. This affects everyone. Your choices have consequences." The crowd had mostly dissipated now, leaving only a few curious onlookers who continued to witness the fallout. I turned back to Lucas, who was still standing there, his expression a mixture of anger and confusion. "You thought you could just waltz in and take my life. You thought there would be no repercussions." "Maybe I did," he admitted, his voice low. "But you're still making a fool of yourself. This isn't going to change anything." "Maybe not for you," I replied, my voice firm. "But it changes everything for me. I'm not the victim anymore. I'm the one who decides how this story ends." I took a deep breath, feeling the rush of emotions swirl within me. I had fought for my narrative, and I was ready to reclaim my life. As I turned to leave, I felt a mixture of relief and sorrow. I had exposed the truth, but it came at a cost. I knew that Sarah would be left to grapple with the consequences of her actions, just as I would have to confront my own feelings of loss. There was no going back to the way things were. That life was gone, replaced by a new reality forged in betrayal. As I stepped out of the gallery into the cool night air, I felt a sense of liberation wash over me. I had taken control of my narrative, but I also knew that the road ahead would be difficult. I would need to rebuild, to find a way to move forward from the ashes of my former life. In that moment, I understood that revenge had not brought me the satisfaction I had hoped for. Instead, it had merely illuminated the depth of my pain. I would have to confront that pain to heal and to learn from this experience. I was no longer defined by Sarah's betrayal or Lucas's arrogance. I was reclaiming my story, and for the first time in a long time, I felt a glimmer of hope. As I walked away from the gallery, I felt the weight of the past begin to lift. I had faced the truth, and now it was time to write a new chapter, one where I was the author of my own life, free from the shadows of betrayal. And as the night enveloped me, I realized that while the scars of this experience would remain, they would also serve as a reminder of my strength, my resilience, and my ability to rise from the ashes.